As you could probably tell if you've listened to this channel before, I am a fan of series. So this is going to be number one in a series of staff meetings that you can hold with your staff, whether it's a team, whether it's a whole school, whether it's a district-wide PD events. These are events that you could do in 1 hour or less. You can adapt it, but they're geared for about 1 hour. This is going to be the first one where we're establishing community values and community agreements. This is central to be able to build on this. So in later iterations or later videos of the series, we're going to be talking about how you can build up that community and how you can ultimately get to a place where you are talking about very critical, high emotion issues. Might be politics, current events, student conflict, race, identity, gender, whatever it is that you want to be able to talk about that often feels like, ooh, I feel uncomfortable with this, or we need to build capacity with this. This is the baseline. You have to establish the community first to be able to do anything like restorative practices, right? When I was trained, they were always like, you can't restore to something you haven't already built. So this is kind of piece one. So let's get into it. I'm going to do a walkthrough so you can see the agenda, you can see the slides. And then when you sign up, if you sign up for the freebie and you want these resources to take and personalize and use immediately, you will absolutely get them. You're also going to get the rest in the series once a week for the foreseeable future. And you'll get some videos with that too. Our agenda, you'll see there's an opening, closing, values and agreements are the main pieces. We'll have our key questions here. We also have some linked resources. Those are optional. You can use them as extensions or actually work within them. I like at least as a minimum the values posters working within that. I'll show you exactly where within the actual meeting itself. Again, a reminder of what we're co-creating, really helpful to name for teachers. We're actually doing something in here. We're co-creating our staff values and community agreements and paint the picture, show them where we're going, right? This is actually so that we can have better, more deeper conversations about critical things. So let's dig into the slides. I'll show you how this would go. So we're co-creating the values and agreements. We talked about that. A grounding and where we are using native-land.ca. Which values are most important to me? So this is a screenshot of the old images they used in the Values in Action website. I like them. They're colorful. They may not be ADA compliant as colors, and maybe that's why they changed them. But I do like that they usually draw students' attentions in. They draw my attention as an adult. I like just putting it up here and having people just kind of peruse. What do they see? What do they wonder? Feel free to do that silently with partners, whatever. But then what values are most important to me, right? Ask each individual teacher to think about that. Then you can have them write their most important 1 to 2 values on a sticky note. This could be virtual Jamboard style, or it could be like a physical Post-it note, or you could do a write around on large poster paper. And then you're going to have the conversation of which values are most important to us as a community. These are not the only values that you have to use, but I do like that these are research-based and they're pretty expansive. So sometimes we have difficulty naming the values. These just provide us with vocabulary to build off of. Feel free to solely use those or to use them as a jumping off point. So thinking about this, right? We can use any protocol. Sorry to go back. We can use any protocol we want here. We can do a discussion verbally. We can do a circle where every person gets a chance to speak. I really prefer that space. Or every person gets a chance to write. If we're doing like a write around or a Jamboard or something like that, we could do some sort of consensus builder. I highly recommend Fist to 5 as a consensus before moving on. So whatever values list we kind of create, we agree on it before we move to the next point. And 3 and above on a Fist to 5 scale, 0 to 5, means consensus. We can move on. We can live with it. Below that, we want to have more discussion. So if this takes you the whole 60 minutes, totally fine. Go there, right? We need to agree on our shared values. And that doesn't mean that every individual's values aren't going to be different. It just means that collectively we can agree that these are things that we hold to be dear, to be true, to be relevant to our education of children, whatever that is. And also, you can also name, how many do you want? Like, so maybe go in thinking we want a list of 3 or 5 or some range of 3 to 5 or whatever. I think once you get to like all of them, it's a little unwieldy. Now, the next piece of that is once you agree on the values, what does it actually look like to live out those values? What does it look like in action? So we have to agree to how we're going to communicate and work with one another, right? Sample community agreements are here. These are what I use at the front of my workshops. I get a lot of these from Dr. Cherie Bridges-Patrick, Glenn Singleton's Courageous Conversations, different facilitation and facilitators that I've worked with throughout the years, the participants in those facilitations. So this is kind of something that I have been co-creating and borrowing and adapting from others for a long time. Feel free to use them as a jumping off point. Feel free to just start from scratch. You can have people share an agreement. It could be one, if you're using that previous slide, it could be one of those that they like, or an adaptation of those, or it could be something just totally brand new. Everyone shares one agreement to start on a sticky note, again, Jamboard or physical paper, then annotate. So have people do like a little gallery walk or a write around. +1 when you agree, question if you need clarity, you're not really sure what it means, you maybe want to like talk about it a bit. And if you're like, I like this, but I want to change a little bit of the words, you can actually just write in the different words if it's close but not quite there. Again, 5 to 5 consensus protocol, same as I would do before. You can actually copy the slide and use it in the values as well. And this kind of gives you a scale here. And then as kind of our next steps, think about how you are going to take this as a staff participant in this meeting and do this with students, with coworkers, with families, depending on what role you hold as a staff member. So I think that is the critical part. How do we now not just do this for our staff, which is critically important for staff functioning and the things we want to achieve, but also how do you take it and then do it with other people? Because the whole purpose of the staff meeting is, and the series that we're going to talk about is we do it here, but we also bring it outward, right? Let people know that resource is in the agenda. There's posters for each one of these that they can put up in their classroom, in their office spaces, and then invite them to share feedback. And so that's it. That's what you're going to do. You're going to do it with your staff. You're going to encourage them to do it elsewhere with whoever they work with, parents, coworkers, community members, students. This is the goal. And now make sure you check out in the weeks to come, what we're going to do is a series where we're building on this. So what do we do next to deepen that community? And then finally, how do we introduce a current event to talk about? And how do we introduce a protocol that's going to help with that? Stay tuned.